Deep. Very serious.
Hello everybody, this is Mentor Lawyer. I'm drinking mate, a traditional Argentinian drink. If you ever watch Lionel Messi before a match, you usually will see him as he arrives to the stadium. He's going to be drinking a mate. So that's what I'm drinking. It's kind of like a tea. Anyway, hello everybody. This was the final day of the state's case. The state closed today in the Donna Adelson case. And it was a brilliant day. To me, the most impressive day so far at the trial. Not so much because of the informants, although their testimony was quite explosive. And it could have been a lot worse hadn't Judge Everett ruled in favor of the defense on a couple of motions related to the informants. But it was overall an excellent day, a very well-designed trial by the prosecution. It ended really strong. And very proud of what they did in this case. Really aging like fine wine. The prosecutors in this case, they're just getting better and better at every turn, in every trial. They're just doing a better job. Finding more nuggets, finding new information on all the suspects, even those who haven't been charged yet. But I was really impressed about today, what I saw today. And what I want to do in this particular video is, obviously I put it on the title, I'll do a Q&A, so I'm going to pay attention to some of your questions and answer them, but I also go over some of the highlights on what I saw today at the trial. I was there for most of the day. I arrived late in the morning, and then I saw the entire afternoon pretty much. Actually, I did watch the entire afternoon. Some of that I watched from inside the courtroom, some I watched from the media room. The reactions in the media room are really, really interesting. I think that they find some of the cross-examination questions from the defense a bit laughable. So it was quite interesting to be inside the media room for some of this trial. So anyway, yeah, lots to discuss about today. And what I wanted to start with was the testimony about the calendar. And if you remember, if you have been here for a long time, we have been covering this case for a long, long time, longer than anybody else. And about a year and a couple of months ago, I obtained a copy of Donna Adelson's 2023 calendar, and we broke it down extensively. We went page by page, highlighted anything that had any potential significance to the case or that was questionable. And we went through it from beginning to end. This woman writes a lot, takes everything down. And so today I was shocked, first of all, to find out that the state had the 2014 calendar and that they found something awesome in the 2014 calendar. Now, let's be real and fair. It was a mic drop moment, for sure. I thought it was a very strong moment for the state to show that in 2014, Donna Adelson had on her calendar an entry that showed the car that Markel drove and the tag number. The insinuation, of course, from that is that she wrote this information down to provide it to the killers, to have it available so she could provide it maybe later to whoever was going to kill Dan Markel. But of course, there could be innocent explanations for it. And so, from a defense attorney perspective, especially, they'll go and talk to their client and say, hey, why did you do this? And the client may explain a totally reasonable explanation that will make sense, or may come up with something that doesn't make any sense. So we'll find out if Donna Adelson will testify what explanation she's going to give for that entry. I've already seen in the comments a couple of suggestions. I'm not going to repeat them because I don't want to create a testimony or give anybody ideas. But let's wait and see what if anything, the defense and or Donna Adelson will say about that. They don't have to necessarily use Donna Adelson to explain why she might keep a record of the car information for Dan Markel. They may be able to do it through another witness. We will see. We will see. But to me, first of all, it was a double mic drop moment, and somebody corrected me about how I say mic drop, so I think I'm saying it correctly now. It was double important, number one, because they have the calendar. Number two, because how they got it, right? It wasn't pursuant to subpoena, but they got it through the defense attorney. So I'm assuming that a defense attorney had it and either felt compelled to turn it over because it was evidence, or was asked, do you have it, and then turned it over, or maybe did it involuntarily because they went through it and thought, oh, this is better. There's nothing here about planning a murder, so let's just give it to the prosecutors because it shows that you didn't do anything, Donna. And then lo and behold, they find something that they can use. So I'm going to watch with you guys that moment. I actually was not inside the courtroom for this moment. Thank you so much, APC. I really appreciate that. We're incurring a lot of costs in covering this trial, and to have your support, to have the support of the members and whoever makes donations, we really appreciate it because it does help towards the costs. As you all know, we have lost the battle in views. We have barely like 200 people watching with us live. There's so much competition, and that's fine. That's life. You know, there's a lot of people that just decide to spend the whole day not in the courtroom, not watching stuff, but just in front of a camera and screen sharing and then talking to you guys. And for some of you, that sounds more interesting. You know, it's not as boring when there are breaks. You know, there's somebody talking to you. So that's totally fine. That's just not something that I have the time for and what I wanted to do. I'm in Tallahassee, so of course I want to be in the courtroom. I want to be in the action. I want to see the reactions of other people there in the courtroom, the jurors, the gallery, the media people. I want to be there. So I'm not going to be in my studio. I could do the same. I could be here in the studio screen sharing my own stream because we're streaming it live from the courtroom and talking, but I don't want to do that. So it is what it is. If the views go somewhere else, that's no problem. So let's watch this. This is my stream. This is the edited version that I edited earlier today while we were doing I edited between the end of the trial and the live that I was doing with you guys. So if you were at the live a few hours ago, I had just finished editing and I was in the process of uploading it. So here we go. I think they have it in a sidebar. Just 1 second. Anyway, I will make notes of any good questions so that I can answer them. So, for example, right now there's some questions. So while we're waiting, I'll read it. If Wendy suspects she's next in line, if she marries her boyfriend George, would the boys stay with him instead of going to the family? No. The answer to that is no. They wouldn't stay with a boyfriend. They would stay with a family member until a court orders custody to somebody, if there's a family member.
Objection being withdrawn. Agent Sanford, you can answer the question if you recall what it was.
I'll re-ask it.
When you seized the defendant's cell phone, did she physically resist you?
Yes, she did.
Could you tell us about the physical resistance that she offered?
Yes, I reached out to the phone, and when I grabbed a hold of it, she pulled it away and said no, and then kept holding it away from me, trying to turn away from me. Another officer who was there arresting her actually grabbed her arm and held it, and then we were able to finally take the phone out of her hand, but she was still trying to keep it from us.
Right, and pursuant to her arrest, was there a search warrant executed at her residence at the Icon?
There was.
And did you handle that, or did another agent handle that?
Another police department handled it locally.
And are you familiar with the items that were seized during that search warrant?
I am.
Okay, and was there a planner, 2023 day planner seized pursuant to that search warrant?
There was.
Have you had an opportunity to review that planner?
I have.
Okay. Was there a planner available for 2014 that was seized at the search warrant?
Not seized at the search warrant, no ma'am.
That planner was provided to the state attorney's office by the defendant's prior counsel, though. Do you recall that?
That's my understanding, yes.
And did you review the copy of the 2014 planner, at least whatever was provided to our office by Ms. Adelson's attorney?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to show you what I've marked as state's exhibit.
Harvey Adelson doesn't show a lot of emotion. He just stoic the whole time.
And some redactions have been made based on the parties' agreement, but other than that, I would ask if those excerpts are fair and accurate.
Yes, they are.
Moving to evidence 142.
In objection.
Objection.
States 142 is admitted.
In the 2014 planner, did Mrs. Adelson keep a lot of personal information and identifying information for members of her family and even, I think, some friends in there too?
She did.
And as part of that information in the 2014 planner, did you locate any information specific to Dan Markel's vehicle?
We did.
So the question was fair. It says that Donna Adelson kept
What information was that?
on a lot
It's
of
the
people.
08 Accord on the left middle of the page, right there. It's the 08 Accord, and the tag number is 584YBM.
That's Dan Markel's tag number at the time of his murder.
It is.
Same vehicle that the killers pursued.
That's correct.
The flight that the defendant was attempting to board at the time of her arrest, is that a one-way flight or a round-trip flight?
It was a one-way flight.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Just one moment, please.
So in anytime that you examine a witness, you always want to finish strong. So she finished with two super awesome strong points. Number one, information about that Markel's car in her calendar in 2014, after they already divorced. Wendy and Dan had divorced a year later. She has this information in her 2014 calendar. And then number two, that she got a one-way ticket to Vietnam. Two strong points to finish the direct examination. It was a very long direct examination over a couple of days, where a lot of good evidence came in through Special Agent Sanford, and it finished super strong. We're not going to watch the whole thing because I actually just did this edited video. It's 5 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm planning to republish it shortly. But I do want to watch other portions that I was impressed by. So no, the cross-examination wasn't that good. The rebuttal, maybe we'll watch the rebuttal. Rebuttal was good. So we'll watch the rebuttal. So in the cross-examination, I think that Sanford, Special Agent Sanford, lost a good opportunity to take throw a punch towards Donna Adelson in a sense. But actually, it's highly ethical what he did. He did not take the opportunity, maybe on purpose, because he didn't want to take advantage of that opportunity. The defense attorney kept badgering him about the fact, why didn't you already knew that you were going to arrest her. Why did you wait until she's about to board the airplane? Why didn't you arrest her right there? Why do you really need... The point was, why do you need her to be fleeing the country for the arrest? And the truth is that, of course, he didn't need that. But his answer could have been, well, the reason why we didn't arrest her immediately is because, obviously, the fact that she was fleeing the country was seen as inculpatory evidence of consciousness of guilt. But I wanted to give her the opportunity to turn around and go back home on her own. She could have changed her mind in the last second and decided not to flee the country. So I waited. And once it was clear that she was going to board the airplane, we arrested her. That would have been, I think, a good answer to that question. But in any case, he was effective. He stayed honest. And he gave explanations. Well, we're waiting. It was kind of like by the time that we were ready, it was really close in time. There was a large group of people, and we wanted, I guess, gave other explanations as to why they waited until she went through gave the ticket and started going down the jetway, I think they call it, before the arrest was done.
And you've testified on direct when each person was arrested. I guess it would have been Garcia first, And then Rivera was already incarcerated, right?
That's correct. We still visited him, and he was can't remember if it was a complaint or an indictment.
So again, a couple of good points. I mean, by the defense. I think that the issue that she was not arrested until the moment that she got on the jailway wasn't a great point to bring on cross. But Jackie Fulford did a good job, and she did bring out a few good points. I mean, she tried to pound upon the fact that for more than a decade, Donna wasn't arrested, even though supposedly they had probable cause, maybe less than a decade, because investigation didn't discover her as a suspect for a couple of years. But for, 8 years or so, 8 or 9 years, if they really had evidence against her, then why the heck wasn't she arrested? So that kind of weakens the state's case or the state's position. And I think it's a good point to bring out during the cross-examination. And she did that. So that was a good point for the defense. But, he handled that well. Let's put it this way. And Georgia Kapperman really did a good job on that, on the rebuttal.
That he was still indicted under this case.
He was indicted, okay. But at the time he was indicted, he was serving a prison. Someday she'll see her kids, so she won't actually have to serve a life sentence. That's fair to say, right?
I don't know that for a fact, but I would assume that's correct.
Okay, and when she gives these two proffers, it's before.
Again, I'm going to republish the whole thing in about 40 minutes. So you can, if you guys are staying late, you can rewatch the edited version with higher volume of what we call day 6 today on this channel in full. But right now here, I'm just going through some of the parts that I wanted to discuss. So I wanted to see the rebuttal from Georgia.
At the time that you left Tallahassee to go to Miami, were you aware that Donna Adelson's attorney had spoken to the state attorney's office about her ability to travel because there was no warrant?
No, it was not.
Were you?
Okay, I just remembered. I'm going to go back to the part about the information in the calendar, because there was a discussion about where they got the information from, and there was some confusion by the defense. I think, in a sense, from my observation of the reactions, the defense was surprised that this even came from the calendar, as if they were not aware of this issue. So they were caught with their pens down a little bit, I think. So I want to go back to that moment. Sorry, I forgot to show that to you guys. So
Search warrant.
I am.
Okay. When you seized the defendant's cell phone, did she physically resist you?
Yes, she did.
Learn.
We didn't hear the call for a couple of days, so it was a few days later. But I did check with another government agency to try to find out if there was an international travel planned. And ultimately, on the 13th, I believe it was, I was told that yes, there was travel plans made.
Okay. And were the travel plans to Vietnam?
They were to go through Dubai and then to Vietnam.
And is Vietnam in fact a non-extradition country?
It is.
And is Dubai also non-extradition?
That's correct. It is.
Okay. And when was that travel plan supposed to occur?
On the evening of November the 13th, 23.
And were you able to intercept the defendant prior to taking off on that airplane?
I was.
And where did you do that?
At the Miami International Airport, right through the gate check as they were boarding the plane on the jet bridge is what they call it.
And that was on November 13th, 23?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As part of your apprehension of the defendant, did you seize her cell phone that she was in possession of at the time of her arrest?
I did.
All right. And did she willingly allow you to do that?
No, she did not.
How did that go?
trying to find that section that I want to share with you guys. So let me go for it. So what were they dropping in about right now?
Where did you do that?
At the Miami International Airport, right through the gate check as they were boarding the plane on the jet bridge is what they call it.
And that was on November 13th, 23.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As part of your apprehension of the defendant, did you seize her cell phone that she was in possession of at the time of her arrest?
I did.
All right. And did she willingly allow you to do that?
No, she did not.
How did that go? Resistance that she offered.
Yes,
Search warrant.
I am.
Okay. And was there a planner 2023 day? And did you handle that or did another agent handle that?
Another police department handled it locally.
And are you familiar with the items that were seized during that search warrant?
I am.
Okay. And was there a planner 2023 day planner seized pursuant to that search warrant?
There was.
And have you had an opportunity to review that planner?
I have.
Okay. Was there a planner available for 2014 that was seized at the search warrant?
Not seized at search warrant. No, ma'am.
That planner was provided to the state attorney's office by the defendant's prior counsel, though. Do you recall that?
That's my understanding. Yes.
And did you review the copy of the 2014 planner, at least whatever was provided to our office by Ms. Adelson's attorney?
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to show you what I've marked. Review that planner.
I have.
So let's break that down. What did Georgia Kappelman just say? Two things, two clues. Number one, it was given to the state attorney's office by prior counsel. So that would have been more than likely Dan Roshbaum and or Alex Morris, based on the relationships and everything that we know. Pretty sure it was Dan Roshbaum. Number one. Number two, it seems that it was not a full copy. It was a partial copy. If you listen carefully, she says at least the portions that were provided. So let's listen to that again.
When you seized the defendant's cell phone, did she physically resist you?
Yes, she did.
Could you tell us about the physical resistance that she offered?
Yes, I reached out to the phone, and when I grabbed a hold of it, she pulled it away and said no, and then kept holding it away from me, trying to turn away from me. Another officer who was there arresting her actually grabbed her arm and held it, and then we were able to finally take the phone out of her hand, but she was still trying to keep it from us.
Right. And pursuant to her arrest, was there a search warrant executed at her residence at the Icon?
There was.
And did you handle that or did another agent handle that?
Another police department handled it locally.
And are you familiar with the items that were seized during that search warrant?
I am.
Okay. And was there a planner 2023 day planner seized pursuant to that search warrant?
There was.
And have you had an opportunity to review that planner?
I have.
Okay. Was there a planner available for 2014 that was seized at the search warrant?
Not seized at the search warrant. No, ma'am.
That planner was provided to the state attorney's office by the defendant's prior counsel, though. Do you recall that?
Okay, so provided by the defendant's prior counsel, that would have been very likely Dan Roshbaum.
That's my understanding, yes.
And did you review the copy of the 2014 planner, at least whatever was provided to our office by Ms. Adelson's attorney?
At least whatever was provided to this office by Ms. Adelson's attorney. So she's hinting at that either he didn't provide the full thing or it wasn't obtained pursuant to a warrant. So it wasn't a surprise find. It was provided by the defense. So maybe she means it could have been fabricated. Who knows? I don't know what she means by that, but maybe it was a partial. But I have a theory about why it was produced. I think it was because they looked at it and they felt, hey, there's nothing about planning a murder here. This helps. Let's turn it over. That would be my thought process on that. And from an ethical perspective, there's a lot of ethical articles and opinions and so on and so forth about issues like, for example, what if a defendant comes to you and gives you the murder weapon? What are you supposed to do? So that would be the kind of situation where, can you just give evidence to a defense attorney and in essence obstruct justice that way? That's a different ethical question that we can answer some other time. I'll answer your question, Dr. Cancel, in a minute, and I'll answer this question as well. But let's listen to the end of that little portion of the testimony first.
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to show you what I've marked as state's exhibit. 142. And some redactions have been made based on the parties' agreement, but other than that, I would ask if those excerpts are fair and accurate.
Yes, they are.
Moving to evidence, it's 142.
Any objection?
Objection.
Thank you,
Case
sir.
142 is admitted.
In the 2014 planner, did Mrs. Adelson keep a lot of personal information and identifying information for members of her family? And
I'm going to answer a couple of questions and we'll continue listening. So, yes, I know it was reported by Scott Radius, a man in Vietnam who's a friend of Charles Adelson. They had been purchasing a villa over there together, and he reported to law enforcement that Donna was living. Whether anyone else did, I'm not sure. The question here is for later. Question for later, doesn't the prosecution run the risk of diluting all the incriminating evidence by using jailhouse informants? Was it even needed? Yes, it is a risky thing to use jailhouse informants, absolutely. And I thought that the risk that comes with that was taken in this case. Although, for example, they had potential jailhouse informants with Katie, for example, and they didn't use it. So in this particular case, because there's so much circumstantial evidence, but very little direct evidence, here you have testimony of somebody saying that Donna confessed. So there's two of them, and they kind of corroborate each other. The state was very limited with them, didn't prolong, didn't try to get too much information out of them. In a sense, I thought it was actually good for the state that the motion to suppress was granted and the testimony of Ms. Bernhardt was limited significantly. And the way that the prosecutors designed this day of the trial and the conclusion of the trial was that, first of all, they showed all the evidence that basically points towards Donna's guilt, almost all of it beforehand. They sandwiched the two informants around other evidence that is written receipts, in a sense, right? Written documentation provided by credible witnesses, law enforcement. They had the FBI, they had the handwriting expert, they had Mr. Corbett, Sergeant Corbett, come back and finish super strong with a lot of written evidence that seemed very incriminating, all of that corroborating Donna's involvement. So I think it was a calculated risk that always is there when you use jailhouse informants, but it was very well presented in this case. So I think overall, there's always a risk. There's always a risk that somebody will see this as weakness in this case. So you add the fact that they used jailhouse informants, you add the fact that they waited 10 years to charge Donna. So you have some reasons that the defense attorneys can try to use in their closing arguments, right, to attack the state's case. So yeah, it is risky. Good question. And then Doc Cancella asked a question about payment. And in the vast majority of criminal defense attorneys, I'm not one of them. And when I did practice for a very limited time, I did it basically as pro bono. I was just trying to get trial work. I was doing it through the payment from the state of Florida that pays very, very little because I'm primarily a civil attorney. I was a prosecutor a long time ago. So the payment is usually a flat fee, and it's usually collected in stages. You get an initial flat fee for the type of case, and then because so many of the cases negotiate out in a plea, you basically have a trial fee that would be paid if the case is not going to resolve and it's going to go to trial. This particular case is different, of course, much more complex, much more work expected. So don't know the precise arrangements, but certainly it's not dependent upon the verdict. It is dependent upon the work that you put it in. So payments usually is done ahead of time. All right, good questions, guys. Let's listen. I'm going to go back just a few seconds and we can listen again to what's going on here at the trial. And keep your good questions coming. I'll try to answer them all.
Is it search warrant? No, ma'am.
that planner was provided to the state attorney's office by the defendant's prior counsel, though. Do you recall that?
That's my understanding, yes.
And did you review the copy of the 2014 planner at least whatever was provided to our office by Ms. Adelson's attorney.
That's correct.
All right, I'm going to show you what I've marked as state's exhibit 142. And some redactions have been made based on the parties' agreement, but other than that, I would ask if those excerpts are fair and accurate.
Yes, they are.
Moving to evidence, it's 142.
Any objection?
Objection.
States 142 is admitted.
In the 2014 planner, did Mrs. Adelson keep a lot of personal information and identifying information for members of her family and even, I think, some friends in there too?
She did.
And as part of that information in the 2014 planner, did you locate any information specific to Dan Markel's vehicle?
We did.
There's not a lot of attention on Donna that I've seen.
What information was that?
Is the 08 Accord on the left middle of the page, right there. It's the 08 Accord, and the tag number is 584YBM.
That's Dan Markel's tag number at the time of his murder?
It is.
Same vehicle that the killers pursued?
That's correct.
The flight that the defendant was attempting to board at the time of her arrest, is that a one-way flight or a round-trip flight?
It was a one-way flight.
No further questions.
Okay.
Cross-examination.
Hey, Rebecca, nice to see you. You were there in the courthouse. I recognize you now from the photo. So hello, nice to meet you. I'm going to fast forward because actually there was a little more discussion about this calendar. So I'm going to go. And by the way, I do agree with Rebecca that the jurors, for the most part, seem to be very attentive. A few of them are taking a lot of notes. And I would also say that they play good poker. None of them is really showing any expressions of believing or not believing. I think I just saw Rebecca right there in the courtroom.
Agents.
Everyone can see it. We'll take a break for a few minutes until 10:20. If anyone does need to use the restroom or stretch your legs, this is your opportunity at this point. Bailiffs, if Mrs. Adelson. Cross-examination.
Just one.
I thought the defense attorneys looked a little worried at this moment after that finishing of the direct examination by Georgia. Specifically worried about that calendar entry. Dr. Obed is a former roommate of Charles Adelson, dermatologist. Katie McManua worked for him for some time.
Members of the jury, before we move into the cross-examination, does anyone need to use the restroom? No hands have been raised.
We would request a brief recess, please.
It's fine. The bailiff will take you to the jury room. Even though not requested, please use the restroom at this time.
Maya, I'm going to disagree with you. When you have a totally unknown person that is going to start to cover primarily, because that's what he was doing, primarily the Markel case, which is what I was doing, and then to call himself jury trial mentor when I'm mentor lawyer. Yes, I thought it was it was very confusing to a lot of people, and a lot of people did go to, maybe they heard, oh, go check out mentor lawyer, and then they will go to jury trial mentor. So I think it was not a fair move, so I didn't like it, but I have since moved past that, and I have zero problem with those guys. I just don't watch, and I have no idea what their opinions are, but I know a lot of people watch it, so I guess a lot of you find good value on their channel, and he goes by his name now, so all good for him. No hard feelings. I don't, if you're gonna be a YouTuber, you have to have thick skin, so I don't mind it. But personally, yeah, I thought it was kind of like a bad move on his part to do that. All right, so I'm gonna try to find this part where they talk about the calendar, and I need to find it. Where was it? Hold on, where was it? I thought it was. Yeah, there we go. Here it is. Because she goes back to ask more questions.
That's correct.
Okay. And the planner that was seized, or at least one of the planners that was seized at the search warrant in 2023 was the 2023 planner, correct?
That's correct.
And that's an item that was seized by another agent, not you.
That's correct.
Okay. But you also came into possession of the 2014 planner, which is the planner from the year of the murder, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And some or all of that planner was provided by Mrs. Adelson's prior attorney,
Correct.
not pursuant to the search warrant.
That's correct.
Okay. And it is in that planner from 2014 where Dan Markel's tag number was recorded.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And on that exhibit, State's Exhibit 142. Very small, but I am able to see the year here on the front page, 2014, right?
Yes, ma'am.
July 14. That's showing you like the next upcoming months.
Correct.
This is for June.
That's correct.
Okay. But in the very back of that planner, there's a place for names and addresses and notes. Is that where you located the information regarding Dan Markel's tag number?
That's correct. It's after all the calendar months. It's the note section in the back.
So you see, it's like she
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
had to go
And
back.
some or all of that planner was provided by Mrs.
I want to
Adelson's
see
prior
again
attorney.
what happened.
Correct.
I
Not
can't-
Agent Sanford, apparently I'm
Sorry that I'm repeating this, but it's important. So see, this is after the break. So let's see what happened.
Everyone can be seated. Members of the jury, before the cross-examination begins, the state is going to ask one additional matter or a few additional matters to Agent Sanford. You may inquire.
Agent Sanford, apparently I managed to confuse and or misspeak regarding the planners. So the planners are a physical book that contain handwritten notes, correct?
Correct. It's like a yearly calendar that has days, individual days on it that you can write notes under each day.
And the planner that was seized, or at least one of the planners that was seized at the search warrant in 2023 was the 2023 planner, correct?
That's correct.
And that's an item that was seized by another agent, not you.
That's correct.
Okay. But you also came into possession of the 2014 planner, which is the planner from the year of the murder, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And some or all of that planner was provided by Mrs. Adelson's prior attorney,
Correct.
not pursuant to the search warrant.
That's correct.
Okay. And it is in that planner from 2014 where Dan Markel's tag number was recorded.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And on that exhibit, State's Exhibit 142.
I don't see where she confused anything, so I don't know why she had to redo this. But hey,
Very
an awesome
small, but
point.
I am able to see
So why not do
the
it
year
twice?
here on the front page, 2014, right?
Yes, ma'am.
July 14. That's showing you like the next upcoming months.
Correct.
This is for June.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay. But in the very back of that planner, there's a place for names and addresses and notes. Is that where you located the information regarding Dan Markel's tag number?
That's correct. It's after all the calendar months. It's the note section in the back.
Thank you, Judge. That's all.
Cross-examination.
Okay, so let's go back there. I want to talk
Planner.
about it.
That was seized, or at least one of the planners that was seized
Because
at the
Wendy's car is
search
there
warrant
too.
in 2023 was the 2023 planner, correct?
That's correct.
And that's an item that was seized by another agent, not you.
That's correct.
Okay. But you also came into possession of the 2014 planner, which is the planner from the year of the murder, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And some or all of that planner was provided by Mrs. Adelson's prior attorney,
Correct.
not pursuant to the search warrant.
That's correct.
Okay. And it is in that planner from 2014 where Dan Markel's tag number was recorded.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And on that exhibit, State's Exhibit 142. Very small, but I am able to see the year here on the front page, 2014, right?
Yes, ma'am.
July 14, that's showing you like the next upcoming months.
Correct.
This is for June.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay. But in the very back of that planner, there's a place for names and addresses
All
and
right, we're gonna
notes.
pause there. So
Is that where you located the information regarding Dan Markel's tag number?
there we go. So there it is. Let's make it bigger and talk about it. So what we see here is we see right above it 2007 Honda Odyssey. That's the minivan. Back then, when the Adelson was driving a minivan. And as you can see, for Wendy's vehicle, the 07 Odyssey, there's no entry for a tag number. 0. No entry for a tag. Right below it is 08 Accord. That would have been Dan Markel's car. But for that one, they have the tag number. That is why I call that a mic drop. This was a really good piece of evidence that they can use amazingly during the closing arguments. We'll see, of course, we haven't seen yet how the defense will respond to it. I think that they were surprised by it. There's a lot of questions about how come the defense attorney turned it over. I may have to do some research about when a defense attorney has in their possession evidence that contains, for example, the handwriting of the defendant. So a defendant can plead the fifth, right? But does pleading the fifth protect the defendant from having to disclose records that they have created before, right? Is that protected by the fifth? Can the attorney withhold that information under the Fifth Amendment or not? And of course, with the consent of a client, an attorney can turn over evidence to the state if they feel that the evidence is exculpatory, if they feel that the evidence is going to help rather than hurt, then they want to turn it over. And like I said, I already said it in this video, I'm going to repeat it again. A lot of people are coming in late, so I'm going to explain it. If I'm Dan Rushbaum, and I have in my possession Donna Adelson's 2014 calendar, and when the state of Florida went and served the subpoena, they found the 2023 calendar. We did a full series discussing the calendar, and I was wondering back then, can we get our hands on the 2014 calendar? So let's say that Dan Rushbaum was watching our channel, okay, for ideas, for thought process, for having a thought about what are people thinking. And we were thinking, okay, what if there is all these different things in the 2014 calendar that could incriminate her? So then maybe he goes and looks at it carefully and says, well, you know what? There's no codes around the date of the murder or June 4th or on this date or on that date. Nothing. It looks good. I looked it over 5 times and didn't find anything that I would worry about. Okay? Talk to your client. Say, listen, let's assume that my research says that I don't have to turn it over because of the right not to incriminate yourself, right? So you can exercise your right to not incriminate yourself and refuse to turn over such evidence. Although, of course, you can plead the fifth when people do a subpoena and serve a search warrant on you and then they collect your evidence, right? So, interestingly, I think I have to do a little more research on that. So the question is whether he was ethically required to turn it over, in which case he would have turned over the entire thing, or was it a situation where it was a strategic decision to turn over all of it or part of it to the prosecution because they felt that it was exculpatory. I'm going to go with the latter. I think that Dan Roshbaum, if it was him, the other prior counsel could have been Maricel Descalzo. I didn't think about that. But Maricel Descalzo wasn't involved so much in the trial once Donna was charged. She was involved initially. My idea is that this got to be Dan Roshbaum or Alex Morris, but more than likely Dan Roshbaum. And my thought is that he did it because he felt that it would be exculpatory. And I guess the state turned that around and found something that he didn't see or didn't put together in his mind, right? Maybe he saw, 07 Odyssey, 08 Accord, and didn't even think about it as anything. But someone did. Someone had their light bulb on at that moment. They said, aha, this is a good piece of evidence. And they thought correctly. All right.
That's correct. It's after all the calendar months. Just note section in the back.
Thank you, Judge. That's all.
Cross-examination.
All right. Any questions before we move on to the next part that I want to watch? Let me go down to the bottom. Again, the question is, why would anyone turn over something that is not subject to a search warrant? And the answer is simple. Because you think it will help your client. Oh, I forgot to put myself in here. There we are. So it's because you might have reviewed it and you might think that it's exculpatory, right? That it shows the absence of entries on certain dates will show to the state that she's not guilty, for example, right? Or that this helps the defense. That's why they would have turned it over. That's a really good question by Dr. Cancella. Have you slept this week? The answer is, I'll plead the fifth, doctor. I'm not going to answer that to a doctor. Why did Jackie ask and reiterate the whole darn timeline of Dan's murder again? Of Dan's murder? Potter, when did she do that? I have to think through it. I didn't think about that particular issue. So it's not something that I can answer at this moment. I have to rewatch it because I didn't watch the entire thing. So I have to rewatch it and think through it. But if you could just tell me a little more about it. What you mean, the timeline on the day of the murder? The timeline of what in particular? So was it like the whole months leading up to it? So I probably didn't watch that part. Yeah. I do occasionally talk to Rashman. We play tennis, and I try not to talk about this case, but if he owes me an interview, I don't think he'll ever give it to me. He had promised me an interview, and instead he gave it to other people. So again, I don't hold anything against anybody. I have thick skin, and I don't accept, people can say whatever they want. So if they want to say, hey, I'm going to be in your show, you can say it. And then if you decide not to be in the show, that's okay. It's all cool. He's a super nice guy. I like him as a person. He's really nice. It's really good really good tennis player. So I hope someday he'll give me that interview and I'll ask him that question. Why the heck did you turn that over, man? That was a good piece of evidence for the state. That was their mic drop and you handed it over. Stephanie, cue a question. Sorry, what did I do? Mel, do you feel this trial is underwhelming compared to the other three? No. Seems to have focused so much on Wendy to me. But I missed some. No, I don't think it's underwhelming. I actually think the opposite. I think that they're doing a really excellent job. It is a different case from the other ones. There's different evidence against Donna. There's maybe a little less against Donna than there is against Charles, for example. But I thought that the state organized it super well. The presentations were awesome. The opening statements were amazing. All the slides, everything has been amazing. So I think it's really impressive. And no, I'm not in any way underwhelmed by their amazing job. So again, this is only one half of the case, or maybe the most important part, but we haven't seen the defense yet. So I'm reserving always judgment until I see everything. But so far, it looks good to me. Hi Maui, do you feel the defense seems disorganized? I think that at times, yes, and at times not. I think it's more like surprised. And it is a very highly complex case with thousands of moving pieces. The state of Florida has to produce documents, but they don't have to produce their strategy. So trial strategy can sometimes be surprising. What they use from this millions of pieces of evidence can be surprising to the defense. So it's not so much as disorganized, it's more as maybe outplayed so far in many respects, including the whole issue of adoptive admissions. I think that they dropped the ball on that. They didn't think about it ahead of time. They were not ready for it. And I did a whole video discussing this whole issue of adoptive admissions and how it affects significantly the defense strategy in this case. And you all saw it played out today. It was really, really impressive how the prosecutors, Sarah in particular, with Sergeant Corbett, I think it was, how she used, or maybe it was with both. I think it was both Georgia with the special agent Sanford and Sarah with Sergeant Corbett, all about the things that Charles Adelson testified to at his trial and how his mom agreed to it in text between herself and Wendy. I actually wanted to show some of that today. That was really impressive, and it kind of undermines the whole story that they gave in the opening statements. They kind of didn't even acknowledge the whole extortion theory that Charles Adelson presented in his trial. So I think that the defense got caught with their pants down on a few issues, and they did not anticipate some of the moves from the state. So they're being outplayed on the soccer field. So if we're gonna talk about soccer, both teams probably prepared super well, but I think that the prosecutor side has been more talented and more got better strategy so far. We'll see. Hey, you know what? The defense may have a few tricks up their sleeve on the defense side, and we'll see how the prosecutors are going to handle that. So I think it's going to be interesting next week. I think that with Jackie Fulford at the helm, she's a long-term prosecutor, probably a mentor for Georgia Kaplan for many years, and she's gonna probably have her own surprise moves. I think she already did have some in the opening statement. Not a cliffhanger like Dan Rashbaum's bomb that failed, but this whole Wendy and Charlie did it thing. What effect do you think the evidence of flight may have on the jury? And thank you for a lot of great analysis on this case. Thank you, Richard. I think it's very important. I mean, you have the timing, you have the whole preparations, you have the plan to flee for quite a while, you have information in texts between Wendy and Donna, where Donna says that I'm next, but I'm not going to let it happen. I mean, they're really tying it up really nicely. So it does look like consciousness of guilt, attempt to flee, attempt to make it harder for her to be charged and prosecuted. I think it works really well. It supports. I mean, she definitely everything that she has done since Charles Adelson's conviction, from the first hour after that, has been sinking her case, has been making the case for the state easier. From jail calls to trying to flee, to making preparations to flee, from communications with Wendy. I mean, yeah, talk about a bump, right? I think somebody said in the comments that each of these different events, so the FBI guy was explaining what a bump is. And yeah, these trials, the Charles Adelson's trial was like a bump for Donna, and got her talking, got her writing incriminating stuff, got her doing things that are incriminating, and I think that it all makes sense to the jury. So, Tentin Quarantino, if an indictment has not yet been turned into a grand jury, say for a case that, okay, got cut out. I hope people don't hate Dan Roshbaum, but I mean, I said at Charles Adelson's trial from the very beginning, a couple of things I said. Number one, from the first opening statement, I highly disliked that strategy of going with a cliffhanger. I thought that it's a fail and it's a big error to claim for the first time on the first day of trial that your client was a victim of a crime, and you waited like what 8 years to mention that to anyone, but you're gonna do it on the first day of trial. I thought that was not gonna fall well, and it did not. It was pretty absurd in my opinion. So I'm, I'll tell you, critically, I thought that he made some huge mistakes, but he's, as a person, he's a nice guy. Oh, come on. I'm trying to be polite here. You guys can have your own opinions. I'm gonna, I do my best to remain as neutral as possible, and I think I'll play this the right word that I need to use as a legal commentator. Do you think Jackie claiming she took a sleeping pill the night before was a stunt? Do you think it was deliberate? I didn't hear that part, so I'm looking forward if you can tell me a little more about when she said that. But she has been saying some weird things that gets the media room like exasperated every single time that she says I'm old, or I don't do this well, or I'm not. She like self criticizes a lot during the trial, and it's like people rolling their eyes every time she says something like that. I agree with that. You guys are making some good comments here that are funny and making me laugh. I agree. The Adelsons don't have the best skills at reading people at all. I agree with that. Okay, well, let me just tell you a little bit about a strategy that I've seen from from Jackie Fulford and the defense. Right? They're showing they're not afraid of the evidence. They're embracing the evidence. Their strategy coming in here is in essence to be almost like prosecutors, right? And Jackie, that was her strength. She was an amazing prosecutor. That has been her strategy. We are on the side of the victim, Danny, right? Dan Markel, who suffered a brutal murder. He wasn't just taken away, he was brutally destroyed. Whatever it was that she said in the opening statements, almost like crying, right? Jackie Fulford's strategy with George Selman's here is to embrace all of the evidence of the murder to show that their client, this nice grandmother who loves people, who always puts other people first ahead of her own interest, supposedly, according to the opening statement, that she would never have been involved in something like this, and that this was something horrendous, painful, brutal, cruel. She would never do something like that. So of course they're not fighting the evidence. They're embracing it. They're making it their own. They're like, this proves that this woman wouldn't have done it, right? I mean, he didn't know that these killers were after him. The poor guy was surprised. But can you imagine that 1 second, those 2 seconds, as he saw the weapon being raised towards his head, as he imagined the bullet about to fly into his head and to take him away from this world? Where were his thoughts? With his children? What was he thinking at that 1 second? Horror, realization that your life is about to be over and that there's nothing you can do. Was he thinking, gee, I wish I had purchased a gun and carried it with me everywhere? I wish I had the gear on reverse so I could quickly accelerate and back out. Was he thinking, my life is over and it was good while it lasted? That's what she's doing. She's trying to embrace it. She's not afraid of the horror of this movie. She's embracing it as if my client has nothing to do with that. She would have never intended for something like this. She maybe hated Dan Markel for some time, for good reason, because her daughter was complaining about horrible things that Dan Markel was doing. So of course she was mad at Dan Markel. But the judge decided she would stay in Tallahassee. Donna accepted it. Donna started to help Wendy find a place in Tallahassee, and she wanted her to stay. She wanted to encourage contact between Dan Markel and the kids. She was helping arrange the Skype. Donna was. She was keeping the kids tied to that camera so that Dan Markel could talk to the kids on the computer, because she cared for the boys. She cared about the relationship with her father. That's the approach. This is the approach that Jackie wanted to take. But did it get totally screwed by the moves from the state, right? Because the state, through this adoptive admissions ruling by Judge Everett, which I don't think that the defense anticipated that argument even being made. I personally think that the defense thought that this whole issue about extortion would never come in. So I think that the holiday rescued the defense. I think that the defense has 3 days to reimagine itself to see whether they can salvage this situation, but it's not looking good right now. But you never know. I don't know. Maybe Jackie's playing her own chess game and I'm being fooled by her. So we'll find out. This is turning out to be quite interesting from a trial perspective. It is a horrible case that I embrace as my own in a sense. I mean, I feel like I'm part of this case. I have developed a relationship with the Markels, and of course I want justice for them, but I want justice done right through a fair trial. So we'll see what the defense is going to come up with. Is there any possibility that Dan could try an appeal due to ineffective assistance? Dan? Anybody can try anything. So first of all, anybody can try anything. So I don't know what you mean by Dan. I'm assuming that you mean Charles Adelson. Of course, anybody can. Donna can. Anybody can argue anything. So the Latin King. I don't know if they have a nice dinner waiting. Might be a little more time. Just kidding. La Mesa Filipino Food Club. By the way, yo hablo español, yo falo portugués, yo parlo un po de francés, я говорю немножко по-русски. Давай, ask questions in other languages if you want. Would someone like Honeycutt be able to legally care for Wendy's children upon arrest if she and or Harvey didn't get granted bond since? Oh, I'm sure that the authorities in whichever location the children are, whether it's Colorado, Texas, or Florida, will work with whichever extended family exists to make sure that the children are placed with family and not with strangers who care for children or within the system, right? So I'm sure that they'll end up with family. I mean, there's Shelley around, and the fact that they're in Canada shouldn't be a huge problem. In the case of the murder of Samara Fresh by Dr. Adam Fresh, there was only a family in Nebraska, and so eventually, like a couple of days after the arrest, Adam Fresh's brother came down and father came down from Nebraska, and an emergency order was entered giving custody of the children to Eric Fresh, the brother of Dr. Adam Fresh, and Adam Fresh agreed to it. Of course, the mom was dead, and her family was in Madagascar. So I tried to get visitation for the family in Madagascar, but that's hard. But I mean, we're talking about Madagascar. Canada is a different story. It's right here, right next door. So it's our 51st state. Just kidding. Which we're about to buy, right? Is Wendy detained in Tallahassee for the holiday weekend, or is she free to travel? She's free to travel. And the state just closed its case. They may still call her as a rebuttal witness, so they would work with her to make sure that she comes back. She's not released yet from her subpoena. Andrew, Donna can explain the tag number in the diary away. Donna was listing Dan's number so he can get in the gate when he drops the boys off at the apartment in Miami. Okay, yeah, there's many possibilities of why that information is there, right? So, of course, she can try to explain it away. But those explanations better make sense and better be true. Because if you give a false explanation, like, for example, something like this, where Dan Markel has never, ever been to Miami with his car, for example, that if he ever went to Miami, he flew in and rented a car, that would make zero sense, right? So, you can't just make up lies. You can try, but anytime that you can try to explain things away, isn't that what Charles Adelson did? Most often, the jury can smell you're making up explanations, right? So it better be a good one, and it better be something that you can corroborate. That's true. So just because you can come up with explanations doesn't mean that anyone will believe it, right? So, for example, if indeed there was a time that Dan Markel did go to that place and did have to and Donna did have to get him a pass, and to do so, she did have to give the car and tag number for the apartment complex, and she did indeed. That was a requirement. For example, if you can prove all of that, then you have a better chance that somebody will believe you. But if it's just going to be Donna saying that without any backup, that's not going to fly well. So this is maybe a little bit of surprising piece of evidence for the defense. So can they on the fly try to come up with corroborating evidence for that? They might be able to. And that is something that they might be thinking over the next 3 days. I mean, certainly if this was a surprise to them, the number one thing that they have to do is talk to Donna and find out why the heck is that in there. Listen to her. And does it make any sense? Is it something that we're going to address during your testimony, Donna, or not? Because if it's going to smell like bullshit, might just leave it alone and not emphasize it. But if it is a good explanation, then the next question will be, well, is there something we can do as far as adding witnesses or sending one of our existing witnesses? Let's say we have an investigator on the case who's listed as a witness. Can we send the investigator down to this condominium where Donna Adelson lived to find out if it's true that back in 2014 you were supposed to, if anybody came by to pick up somebody, you have to give their car ear and tag number. The whole tag car ear is kind of weird, right? I mean, why would any apartment complex need to know that this is an 08 Accord rather than a 09 or 12? I mean, could be, who knows? So again, you can't just make up stuff. You know, when I was an attorney, I am an attorney now. When I was doing insurance defense work, I sometimes would get, let me put it this way. I'm not going to talk about any existing clients, but there are situations where somebody might call you about some incident that could result in liability. And they might ask you something like this. Hey, what is it better for me to say, A or B? And they give you two options. And at that moment, you immediately tell to this person, excuse me, what do you think a lawyer is? The lawyer, do you think the lawyer will tell you what's better? Like it will instruct you what are the facts that you're supposed to say when the insurance company calls you and asks you questions because they have the right to inquire from you about what happened? And you want me to choose completely between two completely different fact patterns? No, that's not our job. Our job is to, you tell us the facts and we'll figure out what is the defense, what is the best way to present that, so on and so forth. So the defense attorneys are going to say, hey, Donna, isn't this why you did it? They're going to say, if they want to do a good job and want to be credible, they're going to say, hey, Donna, why did you write it there? And then now let's see whether we can corroborate it somehow. Okay, I'm getting tired and I got a lot of work to do. And so the plans are going to be different. I'm going to republish day 6 of the trial edited version. It will premiere in a few minutes here on the channel. I would love it if you guys join me there in a few minutes. I need to go get some rest. I think Dr. Cancella asked me the right question. How much did I sleep this week? And it hasn't been much. So I need to pack up, go home and rest. The mate did keep me away for a little while, and I only have a little bit of water left. So I'll have my last drops of mate. Oh, gee, don't get the computer wet. My last drops of mate with you guys. And then I'm going to premiere the other video in a few minutes. So please come watch with me and I'll be on the chat with you guys. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Let's watch it together. I'm going to fall asleep to that video. So thanks for watching. Until next time, Mentor Lawyer. And yeah, you can help out next week by coming to watch the stream live on our channel. It would be awesome to have 385 of you watching live during the trial. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Good weekend. See you next time.